One. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm gonna have to edit this part out at the beginning. This week on the latest episode of The Big Show, today is Wonder-ful Friday as we celebrate the 72nd birthday of living legend Stevie Wonder. Plus, Kendrick Lamar's latest album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, dropped earlier this afternoon, and we're going to talk about that. Plus, there are only 2 episodes left for This Is Us, and we'll take a look back at this award-winning show and its cultural impact on families. We'll have all that and more on episode 501 of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. Let's get it. All right, and welcome to the latest episode, Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. I am Tim Gordon. That, on the other side, I'm pointing in the wrong direction. That, or which way, is Charles Kirkland Jr. Charles Kirkland, what's going on, bro?
What's happening, Tim? Welcome back. I feel good. I'm excited. Let's get going.
Man, you know, this is interesting because Charles and I had a long conversation earlier today, and he caught me when I was listening to Curtis Mayfield, and I was spending a lot of time. And after listening to me for about 20 minutes, Charles went, you know, hey, man, I guess you not going to talk about your boy today. I said, well, what about him? He said, it's Stevie Wonder's birthday. I said, man, every day is Stevie Wonder's birthday in my house. He's my favorite artist, man. Every day is a wonderful day. So, you know, the fact that Stevie Wonder, man, this brother is still with us at the age of 72. We celebrate him and his life, and we will talk about him more coming up a little later on in the show. And I will also add, Charles, that I went and did the research. So if you go online and Google, we have done at least 2 special shows for Stevie Wonder. I know we celebrated last fall the 45th anniversary of Songs in the Key of Life. And I know we have done something for Intervisions, which I think are the 2 best albums that Stevie Wonder's produced. And you can argue with me all you want to. I think Intervisions is his best single album. We know Songs in the Key of Life is his best double album. So Stevie Wonder, as I've said here countless times, is my absolute favorite artist. And, you know, him, Bob Marley, and Prince, man, 1, 2, 3. And there is no 4, 5, 6, 7. So those are my guys. So we're going to talk about Stevie Wonder a little later. Also, Kendrick Lamar's latest album, I think it's called, God, I don't want to mess it up. I just said it at the top of the show. It's called Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. It's dropped today. This is huge because this is his final album on Top Dog Entertainment. His first album since Damn back in 2017. Of course, he curated the soundtrack for Black Panther in 2018. Of course, Damn, he won a Pulitzer Prize for that. That is an amazing album. I was just sharing with Charles before we came on the air that my favorite song on that album is the song Fear, where he talks about his life and fear being instilled in him at the ages of 7, 17, and 27, which I think from a structure standpoint is one of the most amazing songs I've ever heard, and how he's that gifted and able to pull that stuff off. So we will talk about all the anticipation around his new project, including what was the name of the song that he dropped early? Part 5 that you said you saw the video?
Yes.
Thank you.
I mean,
I don't understand the eyes, man. I was like, what was the eyes for, man?
I told you don't put me on the spot about Kendrick and hip hop, man. My knowledge right now, I'm just not into hip hop as much as I used to be. So you know, maybe it's because it's hard to keep up, but thanks to shows like TMZ Hip Hop that comes on at nighttime, I can refresh my hip hop skills and get my knowledge game up. So we'll see.
Got you. And also, as I've been sharing with you, Charles, and we've been talking about it here, This Is Us is in its 6th and final season. There are 2 episodes left. And it is amazing to me that every time as we get closer to the end of this show, that I swear they should be a tissue sponsor for this week and next week, because it is a highly emotional show. And the issue of dementia and how the big 3 Kevin, and what is her name, man? I always can't remember all these names, man. Kevin, Randall, This Is Us.
Kevin, Randall, and Kate.
Kate.
No, Kate is the mother.
No, Kate is not the mother.
Kate is the daughter. That's right.
Yes. So the big
Rebecca's the mother.
Who are caring for their mother who is dealing with dementia, and how Mandy Moore is actually playing this. I just think it is an amazing show. If you think about television sometimes, when we get to finales, Charles, a lot of times you either get them that they feel rushed or they're not fully executed. This Is Us has given this season the requisite amount of time to breathe and has told the stories from so many different perspectives. I just think it's genius what the entire team, Dan Fogelman, K.O. Yagan, who's a producer there that we know and has been on this show, and so many other folks are doing over there for this show. I just think it's a genius show that they're putting on right now. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. And finally, as a dig for Charles, Atlanta is in season 3 right now. And I want to talk a little bit about Atlanta because I know Charles isn't watching right now. So this is my way of not just talking to the audience, but also educating my brother. So we want to talk about Atlanta. And last but not least, Charles, I saved this one for you and didn't tell you about it, so you'll be caught off guard, which is your favorite thing to be on this show, is there's a new series on Paramount Plus called The Offer, which is a series, a 10-part miniseries about all the information and all the carrying ons fictionalized about the making of the 1972 Francis Ford Coppola's magnus opus, The Godfather. It is extremely watchable. If you love The Godfather, you will have a ball watching this because we'll talk a little bit about that. Have you watched any of this, Charles?
Why would I watch it?
Wow.
Why?
But such hate, man. Such hate.
If you can't watch Ozark and you're gonna come at me about The Offer, come on, dude.
Wow. We talked about Ozark, man. I watched the first episode of Ozark, and for whatever reason, it didn't stick with me. I just, and I've been getting grief because my significant other watches Ozark. I have another best friend of mine who gets on me now, Charles. So it's all these, what I call the OP, the Ozark pile up. People just pile on, and want to talk to you about why you're not watching a certain show. I promise you, I will watch Ozark because I understand in its final season, there's some musical tributes and things that have been done. You talked about Sam Cooke. I heard about Nas, an episode they did. So yes, I will go back and watch Ozark. I've never watched The Walking Dead. I've never watched an episode of Law and Order. I've never watched, there's so many things that people said you should watch. I never watched Breaking Bad. And the reason I never watched a lot of these shows, unlike Ozark, is that I wasn't there at the beginning and it was just too tough to catch up. So I was like, I'll get it on the flip side. So so you got anything else on that, Charles?
No, I guess any old excuse will do. Any old excuse will do.
Okay. See, here we go again, man. I'm trying to do my thing today, and Charles is like, any old excuse will do.
I'm just saying, Ozark. We talk about season finales. Ozark just had their season finale this year, just a couple weeks ago, and like you said, it crushed it. It crushed it. So the fact that we can't talk about that, I think, is a disservice to all of our fans out there when we're going to talk about The Offer.
Okay, I just got some breaking news that came across here, and I'm trying to figure out what this means. Okay.
Listen, he's got the serious face on.
Okay. Wow. Have you heard about this, Charles? The Hollywood Foreign Press Association is shopping its assets as interim CEO Fields Bids. Is putting itself on the auction block, courting buyers for the embattled organization that hands out the annual Golden Globes Award. What am I reading here, Charles? That they have formed such within the
They're selling. They're selling
the Golden Globes.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Wait. HFPA statement cites the negotiations with interim CEO, what is this guy's name? Todd Boehly. What was I just reading? It said that at least one potential bidder has been approached, which prompted them to begin a formal process. The special committee is working with HFP's 3 outside independent directors. Now, here's the irony. I actually know one of these directors really well, Charlotte Hambrick, Jeff Harris, and Joanna Massey, and financial advisor, among other key legal advisors. I need to make a phone call because I can get some information, but that's interesting to me. So they're selling the brand of the Golden Globes. Is that what I'm understanding?
I believe that's what it is. Yeah.
Boy, I'm telling you, they've been socked from that incident that happened a couple of years ago. So it sounds like they're at a point where it may not be able to, not necessarily they won't be able to recover. It just won't recover anytime soon. Because no, go ahead.
What does it mean to be a member of the HFPA anymore? So, I mean, it's a whole lot of things up in the air. So,
well, we talk about this all the time, man. When you think about award shows, we happen to do the Black Reel Awards, and there's the Oscars and the Critics' Choice Awards and so many other award shows. But if you don't have stars that are participating or wanting to come out to your shows, you don't have a show. And I think the HFPA found that out last year. Now, they got lucky, Charles, because part of what happened is that when the Critics' Choice Awards initially had their date, I think it was January the 9th earlier this year, but then the pandemic or the COVID infections rose in Los Angeles County, so everything got suspended and pushed back to March. So it would have been interesting to have watched if the CCA was able to have done their show in early January, because nobody was going to the Golden Globe presentation, and that would have been interesting. So coming up this year with news like this, we're about maybe 8 months away from award season next year. So that's not good news, man. So my apologies, because I normally wouldn't do that in the middle of a show, but I saw
big
that
news. That's big news.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I need to talk to one of these board members and get me some additional information. So, and now also, Charles, from 2 hours ago, the Oscars next year is going back to March, which I don't understand this at all. We were doing it in February for years, and suddenly March is now the new touchstone. It makes the award season too long, and I hate that they keep putting the Academy Awards in March, because if they're putting them in March, Charles, what part of March does that mean?
I mean, the earlier the better, but the problem becomes you got the Super Bowl that's around that time. You got all these other competing entities. I mean, it makes it hard for you to carve out your own niche. You keep
the Oscars happen at the end of February every year.
Yeah.
So now you keep extending the award season by putting it in March, and that means the end of March. It's not going to be in the middle of March. It's going to be the end of March. So here we go again with a 4-month award season, because once everything kicks off in early December, we're talking 4 months is too long, Charles. I mean, we've seen that the last couple of years, it's too long.
And then the confusion starts to set in again. What movies qualify? Which ones are in? Which ones are out? Was this year, last year? Who knows? It's going to be ridiculous.
Okay, man. Well, all right. Hopefully we can. I keep trying to find some stuff to talk about that I thought was really interesting before we got to our main topics today, and I keep pulling up one piece of bad news after the next. So let's just jump into it, man. Today is the 72nd birthday of Stevie Wonder, and if you watch this show and have watched it with any level of consistency over the years. You will know, as you heard me say earlier, that Stevie Wonder is my favorite artist of all time. I think he is a musical genius. He has had countless honors and accolades over the course of a almost 6-decade career. I mean, this guy has been an artist since he was a child, and he's now 72. So he's been performing for over 60 years plus. Stevie Wonder is such a dominant force in music, Charles. And I've said this to you off air, and I'll say it again here on, that, you know, when there was this whole thing, this hullabaloo about verses. You notice Stevie Wonder's name never came up in verses, right? Who's gonna go against the guy who's so dominant that he could say, I'm gonna go against you with all 70s verses, you will be all 80s verses, and you will be all 60s verses. And then I can have some people that I can battle versus that has my 90s catalog. Stevie Wonder is just a giant, man. I mean, we talk about singer-songwriters. I've talked on this show that there are two musical entities of greatness that I've witnessed and seen, using a metric that Dave Dickinson, who came on our show once, shared with me, that every artist has a 10-year window when they are at their most creative and most productive, right? So if you think about pop music, you think about, let's say, the Beatles with John Lennon and Paul McCartney, along with Ringo Starr and George Harrison, right? These guys made 6 classic albums in a 10-year stretch. The only other person that had a 6 classic albums in 10-year stretch, and there was one guy, is Stevie Wonder. From 1972 to 1980, Talking Book, Music in My Mind, Inner Visions, Fulfilling This First Finale, Songs in the Key of Life. We skip over The Secret Life of Plants, and we go straight to Hotter Than July. Bruh, 6 classic albums. He won 3 albums of the year. Stevie Wonder, man. And Stevie Wonder did all the same things that Lennon and McCartney did as a team. He did it by himself. He wrote all the songs, he arranged all the music, produced all of the music. I mean, you can say a lot of stuff about Stevie Wonder. I just leave it right there, man. What more can you say about this guy who created his best single album, Inner Visions, when he was 23 years old? He created Songs in the Key of Life when he was 25 years old and released it at 26.
I hate to do this. I hate to do this, but I have to, because, you know, I'm just that kind of guy. But, you know, one of my favorite artists, Janet Jackson, would have probably said, well, I know he's done lots of good things for you, but what has he done for you lately?
Oh, no, you can say that. You can say that, Janet Jackson, because you do remember that Stevie Wonder is Janet Jackson's uncle. So you do know that, right? And you also know that Janet got this brother, you might have heard of him before, this guy named Jermaine. Stevie Wonder wrote a couple of songs and literally just gave them to Jermaine. That was Jermaine's biggest songs, you know, Let's Get Serious, what was this song? Do what you do when you, just gave that to Jermaine. Here, you can have that. Oh, and by the way, she got this other brother you might have heard of named Michael, who Stevie's giving him music, you know, for Off the Wall, had that little brother come and sing background on stuff. Yeah, Stevie Wonder supersedes all that stuff, all this pettiness of what have you done for me lately. First of all, if you've done what I've done for the first 40 or 50 years of my life, I don't have to do anything else. I don't have to. Stevie's living in Ghana right now. Stevie is chilling. Stevie is away from American politics. His last song, Charles, since you asked me what has he done for you lately, was a single called The Hands of Fate that he put out right around the time of the elections in 2018.
Yep.
I'm not going to do it a disservice by trying to sing it, but I love Stevie Wonder, man. So, you know, you don't remember Hands of Fate?
I think that was 2020, not 2018.
Oh, I'm sorry, whatever the last election was, 2020. My apologies, man. This pandemic has got me screwy, man. It's like This Is Us. The time kind of moves around. I can't really put my arms around what years and times, whatever it was, Charles.
No, you want me to know? Let me tell you how I know it was 2020. I remember because I was standing in a supermarket stocking shelves, and somebody called me up and said, "Stevie Wonder just dropped a new song." And he's trying to play the song to me while I'm working in the supermarket. Yeah. I wonder who that was.
Stevie Wonder is so. I tell Charles this, that there's songs that I find out after the fact that Stevie Wonder wrote, and then you go back and listen to them and go,
"Yeah, that makes sense." Why didn't I know?
Yeah. So having said that, man, I will just wrap this up that for people who have not heard the story before, I've only seen the man in concert one time, right? And that's all I needed, because the one time I did see him, he performed at the Capitol Center for the N Square Circle Tour in 1986. He performed for 4.5 hours nonstop, without a break, sitting on stage, surrounded by keyboards. Stevie Wonder's a GOAT. I mean, so people talking about, you're not gonna go back and see him do? No, I've been there already. I've seen it. The experience I had can never be topped of how I saw Stevie Wonder. Now, you'll also say, well, Tim, I know I listened to the show and you talked about you seen Prince and Luther Vandross 6 times and George Benson. And I'm like, yeah, but they not Stevie Wonder. So they just not. Sorry. Love Luther, love Prince. Prince is number 3 on my list. He ain't Stevie, man. Stevie's special.
Prince
so, Charles, do you have anything you want to add in your shade for Stevie Wonder?
I think Prince is the closest in his discography to Stevie Wonder than anybody else.
I would agree with that. I think Prince is immensely talented. I mean, I think about my number 2, which is Bob Marley. And it's funny, I was in New Jersey for Mother's Day weekend, and I have a nephew who loves Michael Jackson, right? And his father is from Guyana. So I was sitting at my mother's house and we were doing what I call music education. So we were talking to him about reggae music and conscious reggae. So he was playing us Bob Marley. I was playing him, Peter Tosh, or I would play him Gregory Isaacs. So, I mean, we were going through that. And as I was playing the music, his father was kind of giving him the background. So I think part of our charge, Charles, at this age, when you start looking on your chin and you got white stuff going on, that you got to explain to people the genius of this music. And I say all that to take it back to Stevie Wonder. And when you think I'm kidding when I say that every day is Wonderful Day. I listen to this guy's music so much, man. Like, I gotta back away from his music because it's like I listen to it so much. And it's really funny, man. I mean, the influence that he's had on all of us, because you got to understand, man, we are believers, man. And you think about how everybody is gifted so differently. So think about an artist like Stevie Wonder. Here's a young man who lost his sight. He wasn't born blind, but he lost his sight at a really early age. And how he has had this disability, it has not just overcome it. He has not just overcome the disability, Charles. He has survived and thrived and done something that, that I think is just remarkable. Like, he isn't just a superstar in the music. He is iconic in what he has been able to achieve and the longevity of how long, like you heard me saying this, he had hits in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Just had a hit song 2 years ago. What do you want from the dude, man? What more, help usher in Dr. King's birthday as a holiday. Created a song that became, in the Black community, a new happy birthday song. We no longer, as Black people, sing happy birthday. No, we go happy. Stevie Wonder did that. That's what he did. So again, man, happy birthday to the ninth wonder of the world. The man who told you it was superstitious. He told you, you know, he showed you his inner visions. He talked to you. I mean, he shared his talking book. He gave you the music of his mind, and it was hotter than July. He's just dropping it. He is Stevie Wonder. These three words, I love you, Stevie Wonder. How about that?
Okay.
Got nothing else on that, Charles?
I think that's good.
All right. So I'm going to transition now, since Charles is sitting there going, you know, I got nothing.
I mean, you pretty much said it all. What else is there to say?
Hey, man, Kendrick Lamar's new CD dropped today, and it was a lot of attention because on Sunday, Mother's Day, around 8 or 9 o'clock, you know, depending on where you were in the world, this video called Heart 5 dropped, which I thought was hella creative, using, what is it called? Face masking technology?
Yes.
Kendrick, I'm trying to explain my best interpretation. He has a song, which is the introduction, like they anticipate to introduce his latest project, which is called Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. But he does this video where he morphs his face, or his face morphs into several people: Will Smith, O.J. Simpson, Kobe Bryant. But the one that got everybody's attention, which I also thought was genius, is at the end when his face morphs into Nipsey Hussle, right? The late Nipsey Hussle. And it's not that his face just morphs into Nipsey, but if you notice from listening to the song that he changes his cadence to almost the way that Nipsey would rap. And he's also channeling what Nipsey would be saying if Nipsey was still here to have said it himself. It was, I had to watch it like 3 or 4 times. I had the feels, man. I was sitting there like, wow. So
I think as he goes through the performance, I think every time he morphs into, I mean, not just the person, the face, but he morphs into that rapper or that icon or whoever it is, and says something in their voice as he's rapping. It's a genius video.
Kendrick Lamar is a Pulitzer Prize winning artist, and he's a Pulitzer Prize winning artist for a reason. Now, it was funny because I was listening or reading some of the early, not necessarily music reviews, Charles, but on social media with people who had an early listen to the album. And you had some people coming on there talking about, yeah, you know, you preaching at us, man. You know, we want to turn up. Well, there's certain artists that aren't your turn up artists, right? You know, we're not pumping. Well, actually, it's not true. I was going to say we're not pumping Stevie Wonder in the club. In the 1970s, we were. We were pumping Stevie Wonder in the club. But I think that every artist kind of lives in a certain lane, right? And I think Kendrick Lamar, even though I hear you saying, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, that it has taken me a while to be introduced to new hip hop stars, right? You know, I'm not the biggest, and no shade if you are, because I know people coming for me like, how you gonna tell me you don't listen to Drake? You know, I listen to Kendrick, I listen to J. Cole, you know, I love Pusha T, Benny the Butcher. There's some folks I listen to, right? So I'm not listening to everybody from this generation like I listened to 25, 30 years ago. I'm like you, Charles, like I'm really selective on the artists I listen to. Plus, I have young people in my house who are constantly introducing me to music. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Let me check that out, right? But Kendrick Lamar, I think, is really, really special, man, because here's a guy who has come along, who is smart, has amazing flow, is massively intelligent, and raps from a place, man, where, you know, you ever heard the phrase, Charles, from 8 to 80? I think Kendrick's music, man, touches across different age spectrums, man. I'm a dude who is not Kendrick's audience, man, but I could feel Kendrick's music and appreciate it. And I have not heard the entire album. This morning, I listened to like maybe the first 5 or 6 cuts is a double album. So I'm not qualified to really, quote unquote, because I'm not a music critic anyway. I just know what I like. But I like this artist, and I'm looking forward to checking out his music. I love Damn and To Pimp a Butterfly. The brother's got skills, man. I just don't know how else to tell you, Charles. I mean, between him and Pusha T and some of these other cats, there are some young guys that are coming along now that are going to take take this genre of hip hop and continue to expand it, continue to present it in a way that's not just going to make it fresh for their own time, but people of a former time or an earlier time also grow to appreciate these artists as well. So I'll leave it there, Charles. You have any? I mean, I understand where you are. You're like, man, I can't keep up with all hip hop, man. But there's some stuff out there that you should pay some attention to.
I'm looking forward to checking out more because, like I saw the Heart Part 5, and so I thought how genius that was. Kendrick Lamar has always been one of those rappers that you just got to respect for the level of intelligence in his rap, and it makes me think about Nas and some of the real old school guys who could lay up some tracks that and give you not just a audio version of, but when you listen to what they're saying, it kind of gives you a visual aspect of what's going on. And I can go back to Ozark because I know they've been telling you about Killer Mike was in one of the episodes of Ozark, and Ruth Langmore was listening to Nas, and they get into this deep conversation about what Nas's music feels like and what it does for them. So, I can't wait to see what Kendrick does. And there's a couple other guys out there that are doing stuff right now that is inspiring. But, like I said before, my real rap game, I'm not up on all the hip hop artists of nowadays because it just doesn't feel the same as it used to. And it doesn't look the same as it used to. So I look forward to people like Kendrick when they put stuff out, because it takes me to where I like to be when I'm listening to rap music.
I got you, man. So Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, if you are a Kendrick fan, you probably have already listened to some of this. If you're not, I would encourage you to check him out, and not just check out this album, but this is his 5th album and his final one, as I said earlier, for Top Dog Entertainment. His first 4, man, it's just critically acclaimed, man. I mean, this brother is got something to say, and I love the way that he goes about doing it. And as I said, Damn, which was his 4th album, which made me say that. Look, Charles, like, damn. but man, Fear. Ooh.
And don't forget, we got the Billboard Music Awards coming up this weekend, and Diddy is hosting. And Diddy, he said he's just having a party, so it's going to be a whole bunch of people out there doing their thing on Sunday night. So that might be interesting to check out.
I wonder if Kendrick is going to be a part of that on Sunday night. Who knows, man? You never know.
You never know.
All right, so man, we got about 20 minutes left, man, and I want to spend some time talking about. I love television, right? I'm a film critic, but also, especially during this pandemic, I spent a lot of time, man, just streaming platforms, Charles. Just watching classic television. I grew up as a kid watching TV, man. And when there have been I'm not going to even say a handful of shows. It's probably about 25 shows. If I ever sat down and we really did a show about my top 25 shows of all time, the show I'm about to talk about would definitely make this list. This Is Us. I never forget, Charles. I remember, I think I had a conversation with you as I watched the pilot of this thing, right? I didn't know what it was, right? So I'm watching this dual story of these parents, right? This couple played by Milo Ventimiglia, I think that's how you pronounce his name, and Mandy Moore as the Pearsons, Jack and Rebecca Pearson. Stop it, Charles. I'm messing names up all the time. My apologies, Milo. So you show this story of this couple trying or about to conceive a baby. And then also, as we're watching the pilot, you see these three people who are related, you know. So you've got Randall, played by Sterling K. Brown. You've got Kate Pearson, played by Chrissy Metz. And you've got Justin Hartley as Kevin Pearson, right? So by the time you get to the end of the pilot, you discover that the triplets that this couple is having these are the children and this is their parents. And I just thought the way that they did it was genius, because you don't really figure it out until like the last 5 minutes of what's going on. And then the other thing that I've talked about all the time with This Is Us, which I think is genius, is probably the first show I've ever seen on television manipulate time this way, is that the story is told in an almost circular motion. So even though there are episodes that you know that this is this character's beginning and this character's end, the characters never actually go away. So despite the fact that we know, if you know, and this is no spoiler alert, because, you know, for people sitting at home, why is he spoiling the show? Dude, this is the 6th season. If you haven't watched it by now, I'm not spoiling it for you. You just late. Just like, watch this. Just like I know all about Ozark and I've never watched it. Ozark is off the air. I will go back and watch it and appreciate it. But nobody's spoiling Ozark for me because I didn't watch it. So, spoiler alert, twink, twink. Jack Pearson, played by Jack Pearson, dies. Or we show his death in season 2. Am I correct?
No. It wasn't that. It was Jack Pearson, played by, oh, never mind. I'm not going to try to look for his name again.
Played by Milo. His character dies in season 2. Yet I watched the show last week. He was on it. So I know you're sitting at home going, well, how is that possible? Because the show is told in a circular motion and they manipulate time. So the show moves backwards, forwards, and into the future. So what's interesting, Charles, is that I remember last season when they would announce they were going into, this was going to be the final season, they were showing some future stuff. And now it's starting to make sense. I'm like, oh, that's what they were showing us last year. And you forget because you see so much stuff. And they've been showing future stuff since seasons 2 and 3. So none of this stuff is new. You just have to watch it every week and really, really pay attention. And I think the way Dan Fogelman, executive producers Dan Fogelman, Jess Rothenthal, Donald Todd, Ken Olin, my girl Kale Yagan, Elizabeth Bergen, Glenn Fakara, John Requa, and Isaac Apteker have executed this show is nothing short of amazing of how they have developed these characters, told individual character stories. The Miguel episode, did you see that one last week?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You know, Miguel has been one of those characters that he was just an outlier, really. I mean, he's there, but he's not really, he's in sometimes, but he's not there. But the way they fleshed his story out, and then what they did with him, it was like, I have friends that say, I haven't watched This Is Us. I'm going to binge watch it. I'm like, you will die. This is not a show you can sit down and watch because you will dehydrate yourself. You talk about a tissue company. You need paper towels if you're going to be sitting down and watch this show. It will wear you out emotionally, physically, and spiritually. This show is dynamite. I love the way they take because this is really an Asian technique of storytelling where they do this circular storytelling and you can start at this point, but in the purpose of telling a story, you may have to go back and see this part to understand where we're going from here. Or you may have to go to the future to come back to understand where you are in the story that they're telling. It's a genius concept, the way they put it together. I love everything about this show. And this, like I said, this is one of those shows that my wife and I, we have to make an appointment to sit down together to watch this. We don't miss miss This Is Us, because it's just that relevant and important. I pray as we're getting towards the end of this show that they do not give us the letdown that I'll say Blackish did with their season finale. I mean, the way that they did it wasn't all well and good for them. It was a comedy show, but I'm expecting to be on the floor when the season finale of This Is Us concludes. I'm just gonna. It has to be dynamite. It just has to be. There's no way around it. The way they've done this 6 seasons, for them to put in a disappointing season finale, it would I would just be upset. So that's all I got to say.
Well, 2 things. One is after the Miguel episode, I went on Twitter, right? Because I always love reading instant reaction from people. And to a person, everybody was tore up, right? Folks crying all over the place, balled up on the floor after Miguel. And then the other emotion was people were outraged. How dare you show us this dude's life and then that's it? I'm like,
don't make me care about him.
That's what they do. And it's so funny because it felt like the episode we didn't know we needed until we saw it. Like, I never cared about Miguel until we learned Miguel's story. And I went, oh, that's tragic, man. Miguel's story was so sad. It took me back to season 1, episode 16 or 17, which is called Memphis, which is the most gut-punching episode that I've ever experienced on This Is Us. And that episode is when Randall
tries to go back and find out about his father.
No, he found his father. His father wants to go on a road trip to Memphis. And let's just say that as Randall's father is laying dying and he looks up and Randall holds it, is it Randall holding his face? Yeah. And he tells him the best thing and the last thing are the same thing. It's and I was sitting there like, oh my God. That show, bruh, I'm telling you, Charles is right, man. But I have a sneaky suspicion, Charles. If you watch last week's episode, everybody is coming to the bedside. We're almost at the end. And I got a feeling, and I don't know if I should say this out loud, but it reminds me that you got to always be careful for the penultimate episode, right? So if you ever watch Game of Thrones, every season, the penultimate episode of a season is when all hell breaks loose, right? The Red Wedding, like all kind of bad stuff always happens the episode before the season finale, right? So this is the penultimate episode coming up this week. And I have a feeling that we're going to see the closure of one story, and then we're going to learn in the series finale that they got to wrap up everything, which is why I think what your gut punch is going to happen this Thursday. Does that make sense? And if you watch the show, you know what I'm talking about when I say the gut punch. That gut punch is going to happen this week. And then that last episode, they got to show you all the future stuff. They got to wrap up everything that's left hanging is going to happen in one episode, which means that the inevitable thing that we think is going to happen in the penultimate episode coming up.
All I can say is I expect to be on my feet clapping when this one ends. I just need to be doing this when it's all over.
Now here's another interesting part, and I didn't even think about this in March when we were at the Critics' Choice Association. Lauren Bradshaw, you know who Lauren Bradshaw is, right? Film colleague of ours, was sitting at This Is Us, had 3 tables at the Critics' Choice Awards, right? And at one point, there's a picture of me that Lauren Bradshaw took because I came to the table because we have been seeing these guys every year. And I'm talking to Sterling K. Brown, and I'm talking to Beth. What is Beth's room? Susan Kelechi Watson. I'm sitting at the table talking to Chrissy Metz and Justin Hartland and Miguel and all these guys. And they stood there. It was so funny because they were there until they announced Outstanding Drama. And as soon as they lost, the entire table, Mandy Moore was like, let's go. Everybody from This Is Us bounced, right? But man, I'm telling you, the fact these people are so cool. And Sterling K. Brown, his wife, who now is on Endgame, Michelle Ryan Bath, Susan Coletti Watson, love the This Is Us folks, man. This Is Us is such an amazing show. Amazing. They've been good to us because, as I said, K.O. Yegan has done our show several times, belongs to our Black Reel Award voting academy. So I feel some kind of way about This Is Us. And I'm not going to tell them the same thing I told the showrunner for Insecure, Prentice Penny, who we were teasing. I was like, you're ending this show, it's going to suck. It's not, I'm not that the ending is going to be bad, but nobody's going to be happy. You're going to end the show. You're not making another movie. You're not doing a bonus episode. We just left hanging. I don't feel like we left hanging with This Is Us. This Is Us has fleshed out their story so well that by the time they're done telling it, there's no more story to tell. Like they could technically be more story to tell, but I think we're satisfied with what we got, man.
So you're saying we're not going to have a This Is Us movie in the theaters that we're going to have to see in a couple of years where everybody gets back together for one last tale?
Well, you know what would be cool, to be perfectly honest, is they did a This Is Us Christmas special. I'd be down for that for 2 hours and watch this.
No. They got This Is Us has to do a Thanksgiving special. Remember, that's when they go to the cabin.
That's right. You have the, what is it, Pilgrim Rick, and you get the hat, and yeah, right. That's a good point. That's a good point. It's a good point. I can see that. All right, Charles. So we got 7 minutes left, man. And the man who told me, well, why would I bother? The Offer is on Paramount Plus.
You sure you don't want to talk about the Lincoln Lawyer instead or something like that?
No, man. We ain't talking about that. You can do that. We can do that in our bonus episode, man, because I'm going to let you're going to bonus out, bro. Let's talk a little bit about The Offer, man. Charles, of course, The Godfather is arguably either my first or second best movie of all time. And the fact that they are doing a mini-series about the making of The Godfather through the eyes of producer Al Ruddy, who was working with the head of motion pictures at Paramount at the time, Bob Evans. So we've seen his story in documentaries like The Kid Stays in the Picture. He was married to Ally McGraw, lost Ally McGraw to Steve McQueen. He produced Love Story, The Godfather, Chinatown. So during that time period, man, Robert Evans was the man. But Al Ruddy, coming off the success of Love Story, connects with Mario Puzo and Francis Ford Coppola. And we have this retelling of all of the tomfoolery that happened behind the scenes. Joe Colombo, the mob, everybody's mad, Frank Sinatra, all this stuff is portrayed in The Offer. We're about 4 episodes in, Charles, and all I can say is that this most recent episode, they introduced something that, if you know the history and the lore and the legend of The Godfather, was the fact that Marlon Brando, at the time that they wanted him for this film, was box office poison. He was thought to be too difficult. He was thought to be pricey. He was thought to be a lot of negative things. But what they forgot that he was at that time was the greatest actor of his generation. And there's an amazing scene, Charles, where they come to Brando's house, being Ruddy, Coppola, and Puzo, along with the secretary that Al Ruddy has. And Brando, literally with a couple of cans of shoe polish, some tissue that he put in his mouth, and a suit, literally transforms into Don Corleone. And the way they shoot it just gave me chills. I was like, because that's the legendary story. That's how. And then, of course, when they screen it, Charles, it's like they shoot it in the screening room, and they're like, who is
that guy? They never tell the executives.
Is that Rod Steiger? And Bob Evans goes, no, because he was disgusted. He didn't want Brando. He was like, no, look at those eyes. And he goes, is that Brando? He goes, yeah, that's Brando. Then the guy goes, the Charlie Bluehorn, who was the head of Golf and Western, who owned Paramount Pictures. He goes, "It's brilliant." And he goes, Bob goes, "Yeah, it is." He said, "What are you seeing?" He's just the best actor of his generation. he's Marlon Brando. So for people, what I'm getting a kick out of, and I've had this argument with you, and I've talked to other people. Marlon Brando he was a student of the Stellar Adler School of Method Acting in the late 1940s. Him, guy who was also in The Godfather, Lee Strasberg. There was a bunch of these folks, man. But Brando is the one, and I've talked about this on the show, is the one that took it and in films like Streetcar Named Desire, The Wild Ones, On the Waterfront, and has elevated that to such a form that the Al Pacinos and the Robert De Niros, and Al Pacino, by the way, is portrayed by an actor that looks strikingly like him in the show. But all these guys, you think about a Denzel Washington, you think about Daniel Day-Lewis, you think about all these actors, they're doing something that Marlon Brando did back 6 decades ago that changed the game. Brando might literally have been one of the greatest actors to have ever lived. In his style, which they pay homage to in this series, Charles, it's just something to behold, man. So I'm gonna leave that there because you always get on me about your love for The Godfather, and you this character, this mob, dude. It's well made. The Godfather in 1972, when it was released, was the #1 movie in 1972. It endures to this day. It is probably a franchise that one of the only franchises in Hollywood history that have had 2 of its films win Best Picture. The third one was nominated for Best Picture and didn't win, but Godfather 1 and arguably Godfather 2 is better. This is an amazing story that they're doing a really good job of telling the story of the making of this American classic.
Well, you talked about the Stella Adler School of Acting and some of the people who've come out of that academy. Judd Nelson, Henry Winkler, Martin Sheen, Nick Nolte, Warren Beatty, Robert De Niro. All these people have come out of that one school of acting. But if you look at the long list of people who graduated out of that school, the best to ever do is Marlon Brando. The best to ever have done it so far is Marlon Brando. And so I love that part of the show when he has to confess, yeah, that's Brando.
Yeah, look at those eyes. Freaking Brando. And then there's another scene later on when Evans is trying to tell Brando to play ball, and Brando goes, "Who are you?" He was like, "I'm just trying to work." He was like, I don't do this stuff. That's why I have agents. Who are you? I don't play what are we playing in the sandbox? What are we?
I mean, that's what, and Brando was temperamental and rough to work with. And so, genius, but tortured at the same time.
The Offer, Friday nights on Paramount Plus, episode 5 tonight. You don't want to miss that. All right, Charles, we're going to get out of here, man. We got overtime coming up. And as we tell you guys in closing every week, please see something good at the movies. Happy birthday to the wonderful ninth wonder of the world, Stevie Wonder. Enjoy your day, my brother. You have given us so much joy. I hope the universe gives you joy in return. Until next week. Well, actually, I'm not here next week. I'm going to be in Mexico. Charles, I'm not going to elaborate. They know where I'm going. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. You guys take care, and we'll see you on the other side. Enjoy your evening.